Who for Giannis, if he has a control, is to go to the East? I think New York would be on that list.
So if Giannis did ask for a Knicks trade, it's really hard and it has to be a three-teamer. If I'm Milwaukee, I just wouldn't do it. I would not trade Giannis.
Huge changes are coming for the New York Knicks. They already fired a head coach who took their team to the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. And for the second offseason in a row, the New York Knicks are speculated to make a huge blockbuster trade to improve their chances at winning an NBA Finals. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to get the latest NBA news. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. We created a new Discord server where we've been profiting like crazy on Prize Picks, including this crazy $2,000 hit just the other day. I'm going to leave a link to join this Discord community in the description down below. It's a WAP link. And if you haven't signed up for Prize Picks, make sure you use my promo code microphone to get a free $50 when you make a play of $5 or more. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? A few days ago, the basketball world was stunned when news broke that the New York Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau. I'm talking about the same Tom Thibodeau who literally saved this franchise from being the laughing stock of the NBA. Now, before you say,
"But Mike, this is old news. You already made a video on this."
Trust me, stick around because the real story behind this firing is something that most people don't know, and it involves a $220 million conspiracy that goes way deeper than anyone realizes. Let me paint you the picture of how crazy this decision was, because in my last video, I provided perfect rationale as to why Tom Thibodeau was fired. But when you dive in deeper, Tibbs went 226 to 174 over 5 seasons. That's the 4th best winning percentage in franchise history. This man took a team that hasn't sniffed the playoffs in years and turned them into conference finals contenders. But at the same time, you could make the argument that Tom Thibodeau was carried by his talent, and the Knicks made that progress in spite of him, not because of him. But here's where it gets really interesting, and I'm going to tell you something that most NBA analysts won't. This firing wasn't really about wins and losses. There was something happening behind the scenes that forced Leon Rose's hand, and it involves Karl Anthony Towns in a way that's going to shock you. Now, if you guys caught my last video, I cited the main reason why Tom Thibodeau was fired was because of the minutes that he was playing his players. Mikal Bridges played the most minutes in the entire NBA this season. Josh Hart was 2nd, OG Anunoby was 9th, and that's 3 of their 5 starters in the top 10 for total minutes played. Bridges even went to the media saying sometimes it's not fun on the body, and that wasn't complaining, that was a warning. Here's what Tom Thibodeau defenders don't want to admit. His teams always hit a wall. Chicago in 2012, they fell apart in the playoffs. Minnesota in 2018, same thing. The Knicks this year, their starting lineup had a minus 31 point differential in the conference finals against Indiana. Leon Rose's statement after the firing was ice cold. They're singularly focused on winning a championship, and they decided they needed a new voice. Translation: playing your stars 40 plus minutes a night works in the regular season, but in the playoffs, when everyone's playing that hard, you need depth and fresh legs. But this is just surface level stuff that you guys already know. The real reason Tom Thibodeau got fired is going to blow your minds, and it connects directly to why Cat might be getting traded this summer. And speaking of Cat, wait until you hear the locker room drama that had teammates questioning whether he even wanted to be there to begin with. This story gets way spicier as we keep going. According to multiple reports from The Athletic, there was serious tension in the Knicks locker room all season long, and Karl Anthony Towns was at the center of it. Here's what actually happened. Teammates and coaches were getting frustrated with Cat's defensive habits. This isn't the first time we've heard something about this, by the way. We're talking about a dude executing the wrong coverages without telling anyone why he was doing it. Players were literally having meetings during their playoff run because Cat wasn't communicating on defense, and the numbers back this up as well. When Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns shared the floor in the playoffs, they were a minus 2.9 net rating. In the conference finals specifically, they were minus 6.9 in 146 minutes together. Their defense was literally 2.8 points per 100 possessions better when Cat was on the bench. But here's the conspiracy theory that has NBA Twitter going wild, and I want you to really think about this. An anonymous NBA executive told reporters who was on the Timberwolves when Tibbs got fired in 2019, and who is Cat's former agent. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Cat told Leon Rose during his exit interview that he didn't want to play for Tibbs anymore. So let me break this down for you. Leon Rose was Karl Anthony Towns' agent before becoming the Knicks president. Towns was in Minnesota when they fired Tibbs in 2019. Now Towns is in New York, and 3 days after their season ends, Thibodeau gets fired again? Guys, that isn't a coincidence, that's a pattern. And if you think that's wild, wait until I tell you how Giannis Antetokounmpo finds himself in this equation. And if you're a New York Knicks fan, you're not gonna like what I have to say about this. But before that, we need to discuss the New York Knicks head coaching situation right now. So the New York Knicks need a new head coach, and there's some pretty incredible names available for hire, but the frontrunner isn't a name that I personally was expecting, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense. The New York Knicks top candidate is Jason Kidd. This dude coached Jalen Brunson during his breakout season in Dallas, so they already have that chemistry. Plus, Jason Kidd finished his playing career with the Knicks back in 2013, so he has familiarity with the organization. The problem? Dallas isn't just going to let him walk. They want compensation, and the Mavericks are making this as difficult as possible. On top of that, I don't know if Jason Kidd wants to leave the Dallas Mavericks. Sure, 3 months ago, this would have been a great situation for Jason Kidd to leave, but everything's changed since the Luka Doncic trade. When fully healthy, the Dallas Mavericks project to have a starting lineup of Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, and Derek Lively II. They'll have Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington off of the bench, assuming that they don't make a huge trade during the offseason. So I'm not necessarily sure if Jason Kidd would want to jump ship at this point, especially when he was able to take the Dallas Mavericks to the NBA Finals a year ago. At the same time, Michael Malone just became available after Denver fired him with 3 games left in the regular season. Think about that. They fired a championship coach because of whatever drama was going on behind the scenes about the roster construction of the Denver Nuggets. His coaching style is almost identical to Tom Thibodeau. Michael Malone is defensive minded, he plays his starters heavy minutes, he doesn't like to play rookies, and he has an old school approach. Would hiring Michael Malone actually solve the New York Knicks' problems, or would they be making the same mistake again? A name that I was surprised to hear about in this coaching search was Rick Pitino, who shut down any speculation immediately, and it's for a very good reason. Pitino said, "Absolutely not. I think whoever comes in, if he doesn't get to the finals, it's going to be deemed an unsuccessful season." Even Rick Pitino knows that this job is a pressure cooker. The players' reactions were telling though. Jalen Brunson defended Tom Thibodeau after Game 6.
Is that a real question right now? You just asked me if I believe that if he's the right guy. Yes.
Josh Hart tweeted forever grateful, and even Magic Johnson was stunned. Wow, 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 I can't believe the New York Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau today. But all of this coaching drama is nothing compared to what I'm going to tell you about the New York Knicks' quest to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news, this is not what you think it's going to be. Every New York Knicks fan is currently dreaming of Giannis right now, especially after Shams reported he's open-minded about his future for the first time ever. I mean, it makes perfect sense. The Milwaukee Bucks are falling apart. This is their 3rd straight first-round exit. Damian Lillard tore his Achilles, and they have no first-round picks until 2031. But I need to give you guys a reality check that nobody wants to give you. The Knicks simply cannot trade for Giannis without gutting out their entire team. Let's take a look at the money here. Giannis makes $54 million next season. To trade for him, the New York Knicks need to send back at least $54 million in salary. Their highest paid players are Cat at $49.2 million, OG Anunoby at $42.5 million, and Mikal Bridges at $27.5 million. Gary Wolfel says that the Knicks are preparing to make a tsunami-type offer to acquire Giannis from the Bucks. And if the New York Knicks are able to get Jason Kidd as their head coach, this would not only reunite Jason Kidd with Jalen Brunson, but it would reunite Jason Kidd with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And Jason Kidd was Giannis Antetokounmpo's coach as he was developing into the superstar he is today. Even Brian Windhorst says that this is a possibility.
Move for Giannis, if he has a control, is to go to the East. I think New York would be on that list.
Now, Bill Simmons proposed a very interesting 3-team trade that could net the New York Knicks Giannis Antetokounmpo, but is it really worth it?
So if Giannis did ask for a Knicks trade, it's got to be Towns and OG together and Towns and Bridges together, and you need a 3rd team. And I think the 3rd team would have to be the Spurs. I think the Bucks end up with Towns and Vassell and multiple first-round picks from San Antonio. And the Knicks would get Giannis, but they would have to take a couple couple contracts. They'd have to take Connaughton and they'd have to take Kuzma.
Meaning the New York Knicks would have to give up one of their best offensive players in Karl Anthony Towns and one of their best two-way players in Mikal Bridges in order to get Giannis Antetokounmpo, Pat Connaughton, and Kyle Kuzma. Is that necessarily worth it? Well, it gets a little tricky when you consider the fact that Mikal Bridges is up for a huge contract extension soon. A straight trade between the Knicks and the Bucks won't work because Milwaukee doesn't want more expensive veterans. They want young players and draft picks to rebuild, and the Knicks traded 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges last summer, so they literally only own their 2030 and 2032 first-round picks. When you compare that to an offer that Houston can make for Giannis, for example, there's just no comparison. Houston can offer Alperen Şengün, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and multiple first-round picks. San Antonio has a treasure chest of draft picks that they could offer. When you compare that to the Knicks offering Towns and Bridges and maybe Josh Hart, it's just not an attractive offer. So now the Knicks have to face critical decisions in 2025 with $199.8 million committed to their roster, placing them $45.1 million over the salary cap and dangerously close to the second apron threshold. Despite their financial limitations, there's multiple realistic pathways where they can improve their team. Next year, they have $53.1 million committed to Cat, $39.6 million to OG Anunoby, $34.9 million to Jalen Brunson, and $24.9 million to Mikal Bridges. Their core 4 players consume over 75% of the projected $154.6 million salary cap, which means the Knicks only have a taxpayer mid-level exception of $5.7 million and veteran minimum contracts as their primary tools for roster construction. They're currently $11.9 million over the luxury tax, and the Knicks face an estimated $15 to $20 million tax bill for 2025 to 2026, and they enter repeater tax territory in 2026 to 2027 when they're going to be punished severely for repeating this tax. The Knicks also need to navigate the second apron hard cap. They're sitting just $8 million below the $207.8 million threshold, which would make it even more difficult to improve the team. The crazy part is Jalen Brunson had a team-friendly contract extension that really helped the Knicks. He took $113 million less than his maximum eligible extension. Though that being said, who could the New York Knicks really go after to improve their team? Well, the dream scenario would be Miles Turner. Miles Turner is going to be a free agent this offseason, and he's expected to command $30 million plus annually, which means this is way more than the Knicks have available for their cap space. So the only way they could get Miles Turner would be a sign-in trade using Mitchell Robinson's $12.9 million expiring contract as the centerpiece. The only way Indiana would do this was if they were trying to avoid paying luxury tax, which could very well be the scenario. But given the fact that the Indiana Pacers made it to the NBA Finals and Miles Turner played a huge role in that, I highly doubt they would make any significant changes to a team that could potentially win an NBA championship. So we gotta go a little cheaper here. If the Knicks want other center options, they could go after Al Horford, who would probably cost $4 to $6 million, or Brook Lopez, but Brook Lopez's contract may exceed the taxpayer mid-level exception. Another option would be Tyus Jones, who would be a huge upgrade at backup point guard. He's expected to ask for $8 to $12 million in salary, and he fits the taxpayer mid-level exception, which would give the Knicks depth behind Jalen Brunson. The New York Knicks are very limited in making a blockbuster trade, which makes this entire situation all the more tricky. But we forgot to mention another possibility. The Knicks don't make that many changes at all, apart from their head coach, of course. The current roster is incredible when they're fully healthy, and they had plenty of depth during this past season as well. The starting 5 of Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Hart, and Towns prove that they can beat anyone by taking down the defending champion Celtics 4-2 in the conference semifinals, despite getting swept against Boston in the regular season. Okay, sure, the fact that Jason Tatum tore his Achilles tendon may have had something to do with that, but Jalen Brunson's clearly the real deal and is one of the best contracts in all of sports. All I know is Leon Rose has been very aggressive since taking over in 2020. He's never made a panic move, he hasn't ever chased big names, he's just been methodical in constructing the best roster possible. The man turned Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo into Karl Anthony Towns and boldly made OG Anunoby take the largest contract in New York Knicks history. And he did all of that while just staying $300,000 under the second luxury tax apron. And that last part is crucial. The Knicks are currently threading the needle financially. They're $43 million over the luxury tax, but they're avoiding the second apron, which would have restricted their ability to make moves. They're officially in championship or bust territory. Whoever the Knicks decide to hire needs to be an individual that harnesses the depth on their roster, because Miles McBride, DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet, and Mitchell Robinson have all proven to us that they're more than capable of playing very meaningful minutes coming off of the bench in this past year's playoffs. But if you're a Knicks fan, let me know in the comment section down below. Should they gut out their entire roster and make a huge move for Giannis Antetokounmpo, or should they run it back with another blue chip head coach? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.